I found the solidarity, international solidarity, really inspiring, and all the activism that's going on, and all the education as well. I think it's really important that we all gather together frequently to, kind of, I guess, support each other around the world, especially in times where, we can feel defeated. Yeah.
Well, I think it was all remarkable, but I think having the international comrades, having that solidarity, getting to learn from their perspectives, getting to see them interact with each other and cross-fertilize conversations, I think that is very empowering and very inspirational in carrying our activism forward here in Australia.
The talk on the rise of the far right, I found it particularly interesting, and how to fight it. I also really enjoyed the talk on ecosocialism and why it's necessary, and just bringing people together, bring people to the struggle all across various countries and from across the state. I found incredibly valuable as an activist.
It's been so cool to see everyone and hear all of the different things that's been going on in the world. The international comrades were great. Seeing everyone was really cool. I couldn't pick one.
I've been meeting a lot of stuff, like catching up with a lot of people. Some comment that people haven't seen in years, but probably most of strangers to the Singapore comments. Like, considering the amount of oppression they have to go, there's a way of finding ways to organise. It's amazing. I mean, there are many other things, like obviously we can, the Palestinian struggle, and the Singaporean comments like been most inspirational.
I found everything really enjoyable, but I think what I liked was the anti-war, anti-AUKUS one. I found a lot of information in that, how to fight back. But I find that it's very interesting, with all the international guests, even though there's a lot of differences, we have so much in common.
Yeah, first off, congratulations to the comrades of Socialist Alliance and the Green Left for this absolutely incredible conference. Perhaps I think the biggest takeaway, if one way to look at it, identify at least two or three real crucial kind of learnings. One is the growth of the far right is really at the doorstep now, and the kind of challenges that it poses for social and economic equality, climate change, etc., is really real. And I think in the conference we were able to discuss that, and perhaps we'll also find ways to fight it. I think the second thing is second important issue, I think, for me, is the kind of colonialisms that are actually taking place even in Asia today. For instance, what's happening in New Caledonia, what's happening in West Papua, and the kind of urgency in solidarity that is required with the freedom struggles over there. And thirdly, I think even in a so-called global North nation like Australia, the kind of devastating kind of oppression of the First Nations people is totally unacceptable. And any country that's claiming to be a democracy cannot pride itself on the way it's treating the indigenous people of its own indigenous people. And I think that struggle for justice is absolutely paramount, and I'm very glad that was brought out in this conference. Yeah.
I found the session yesterday morning with the two First Nations presenters just so that they're on different topics, but oh my god, it's just phenomenal what they're dealing with and the work that they're doing, and I just found that so inspiring, and in particular the work that Megan's doing to support Aboriginal people with trauma and mental health issues, and just it's heartbreaking to hear, but also I think inspiring too. There's definitely hope, and it's really got me thinking about what I can contribute, if anything, and just being more aware of I guess, like, of a social worker. And I often think about things in an individual way, because that's primarily how I work with people, but having those kind of presentations makes you realise it's just a gentle reminder of how broad these issues are and how systematic our failings with our health system are.
Well, first of all, the fact that we've been able to gather so many dedicated activists and organisers from the global south and all across this country into one place to talk about anti-capitalist resistance and the importance of building eco-socialism.
I really love to hear from people all around the world, not just Australia, but just to see the fight that the same fight that we're fighting in Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, countries that are many of our allies, but they are in many ways very imperialist, authoritarian countries.
I think definitely hearing from our international speakers and the struggles they're engaged in, particularly when they're sort of facing authoritarian regimes or sort of being arrested or shot or lynched. Some of the stories we heard definitely I think gives us some perspective here to keep going, and it's really inspirational seeing particularly younger activists internationally fighting so hard in really hard conditions. So
I think the really inspiring sessions were hearing the international speakers talking about class struggle in their home countries, and so many of the issues that our international workers delegates are facing, seeing the links that Australian workers are also facing, and of course neoliberalism and capitalism being the uniting kind of battle that we've got to work against. But I also just loved linking those issues of class struggle with what's happening with the ecological crisis, because of course capitalist extractivism is everybody in the world is suffering because of that, and particularly that is a class issue, and it's really important to talk about the ecological crisis in terms of class issues.
It was really inspiring hearing from so many different movements across the globe, really. At least the international guests, especially from the folks we heard from Singapore, and yeah, it was really inspiring that just because it's something that you don't always have in your mind, and they're all really it's a global movement, I guess, and you're working towards a common goal.
Singing along to I'm a Better Anarchist Than You, live to David Rovics with all of my comrades yelling at the top of their voice, rock on.
I think I've loved all of it. But yeah, I think living now in a regional area, feeling a little bit isolated from time to time, it's just so refreshing and energising to get together with other activists, all in the same place to, exchange experiences, learn from each other, and just enjoy the sort of solidarity and comradeship of, being together in the same place.
So I love that we had international guests. I always love to hear what the struggles are in other places in the world, because I always believe that if you're a socialist, you're an internationalist. So the struggle should be internationalized. We're in this together.
I think it's a wonderful display of solidarity. It's basically an Asia Pacific eco-socialist conference, but the whole discussion's been great, and the sort of the topics we talked about covered the whole gamut of the human struggle.
Well, I thought it was an incredibly inspiring conference. As socialists, I think it is really the value of internationalism is so important, and the experience of learning from socialist activists in countries such as Singapore, to be able to hear from a veteran like Leila Khaled on the Friday night, and also hearing from the experiences of socialists in the Asia Pacific from India, Pakistan, Malaysia, and the Philippines, I think is immensely valuable. And I think the Ecosocialism Conference provided an incredible platform to be able to share those experiences on how we can fight for a world beyond capitalism.